On September 20th, the Manitoba Youth for Climate Action organized a dine outside of the Human Rights Museum. A dine is a form of non-violent protest where people lie on the ground like they are dead. This event was the kickoff of the week of climate action.
We are making a difference. Every single one of you is making such a huge difference. So when we are here today to die, to protest the unjust deaths of people who have come before us, and for those deaths that will occur in the future as we are not making action happen fast enough, I want you to think about the fact that you are making a difference yourselves.
Lena and Sunny are two young activists with the Manitoba Youth for Climate Action.
We know that as the climate crisis worsens, there will continue to be more and more lives lost. So we know that this issue needs to be stopped now to save lives. It's not just about saving the planet, it's about saving humanity as well.
Climate change is a human rights problem. You cannot have anything if you do not have a safe planet to live on. Everybody keeps talking about the economy. They keep talking about how much it matters. You cannot have money on a dead planet, nor can you have a sustainable healthcare system, quality education. You cannot have anything if there is no planet to live on.
We know that every single human rights issue is going to be worsened by the climate crisis. And we're doing it here at the Human Rights Museum to show the connection between the climate crisis and human rights. And we also just really appreciate the visual of this building. It's such an iconic building here in Canada, and it's recognizable as a symbol for human rights.
When did you first hear about climate change?
I think I've known about it my entire life. My parents are pretty politically involved as well, so it was just something that was taught to me since I was young, and I knew that protecting our planet was the most important thing.
Lena and Sunny were impressed that we were so interested in climate change.
Thank you so much for being here. And this is all high school, grade 9 up? Cool. That's really cool because when I was your school is really amazing. I just graduated and I never learned about climate change. The most I learned about was by the way, beef is bad for the planet, and that's the extent of my knowledge from school. So everything that I've learned, I've had to teach myself. So it's really amazing that you guys are actually here. You should be really proud of yourselves. And in general, filming. Yeah, that's so cool.
It was unusual for Lena and Sunny to be interviewed by a group of kids making a documentary about climate change.
Can I ask you all your guys' names?
I'm Maddie.
How old are you?
I'm 15. I'll be turning 16 in January.
Nice. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I'm Sunny.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
What was your name?
It's Julie.
Julie? Cool. Thanks, Julie. Thanks for coming.
I'm Kate.
Kate.
Hi. I started striking in February. I saw what Greta was doing back. I think I was following her September, and I realized oh my god, I want to do this. So I texted my friend. I was like, hey, if there's not already a group doing this, then I'm gonna start it. And then I realized oh my gosh, there's a student strike group. So I went to that first February rally, and I just have been involved ever since. So a group from River Heights Middle School started striking in December, and then the first Manitoba Youth for Climate Action strike was in February.
Okay. We are unstoppable, another world is possible. 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 We are unstoppable, another world.
Do you think politicians are starting to hear cries of action?
Depends which politician you ask. I think in some parts of the world more so than in Canada. Some, especially in Europe, there's been quite a bit of mobilization from politicians. In Canada, I'm still seeing a lot of lip service paid to this issue. I'm seeing people say that they're going to make these minor, mostly changes for show.
Changes for individuals, not system change.
Yeah.
And it's not the individual's fault that this crisis is as big as it is. It's the corporations. It's governments who keep giving money to corporations that continue to hurt the planet.
On November 7th, we interviewed the Progressive Conservative Party member, Sarah Gillimard. She is the Minister of Conservation and Climate.
Yeah, you get the boom. We have 3 cameras and we had 3 and a couple of extra mics. Maddie Pollock is a grade 10 student at 7 and is going to be our interviewer for today.
Perfect. Okay.
So shall I just turn it over to you, Maddie, then? And
Yeah.
we can get started.
Do you have some aspirations to be a journalist one day?
Yeah, that was actually a job that was on my list of jobs. But
Perfect. Okay.
yeah. For the last 20 years, there have been incentives for homeowners and businesses to encourage the transition of solar-powered and hybrid electric cars. But it's this one household at a time strategy aggressive enough?
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, that's quite a loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I think when we're looking at a large-scale attempt to get ahead of this climate change sort of ball rolling, we need to look at our individual responsibilities. So as frustrating as it can be to say, well, this is, one household at a time, it actually takes one individual at a time, changing their habits and teaching their neighbor about those habit changes and encouraging them to come alongside.
Lena and Sunny didn't seem to agree.
I know that it is not the responsibility of the individual consumer to stop global warming and to stop climate change. It is the responsibility of our politicians and the responsibility of the big corporations, because the corporations are the ones who are polluting. The corporations are the ones who are destroying this planet. It's not us as an individual. So while individual action is important, and it is important to try to reduce your own carbon footprint, it's the most important thing for the politicians to start listening.
Globally, the climate crisis is the one issue that literally impacts every single person on this planet. And the fact that it isn't the number one issue in Canadian politics, we've had 2 elections. We just had an election happening. We're in the midst of another election campaign, and climate is not the number one issue. And that's putting young people's lives literally on the line. And politicians are saying that they stand for all of us, they represent all of us, when they're literally leaving out anybody who cannot vote for them. I'm 17, I can't vote in the federal election. I can't vote for who's going to represent me and young people all around Canada. And it's unfair that these people are only thinking about short-term profit and greed and only thinking about what's going to get them the most votes.
So in general, I feel quite a bit of anger and disappointment towards politics today, especially surrounding climate change. I find that politicians' interests are often only just to get elected, and then they'll play just towards what makes the most money. And we see time and time again that people in positions of power are putting the profits over the people and not focusing on what really matters. Instead, they're just focusing on continuing to have that power for themselves. So I hope to see politicians start to look at the bigger picture and see what is best for humanity in the long run and start taking meaningful action towards solving this crisis.
I would like to ask some questions. Is that okay?
We just have a couple more minutes left.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
4 minutes.
Maddie, would it be okay if I sit there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I wanted to know, are we going to? Oh, by the way, I'm Lasha. I'm the film.
Hi, Lasha. Nice to meet you.
So are we going to transition the Manitoban economy off of fossil fuels?
That would be ideally what we would like to achieve. How we would get there, I think, is a very long-term plan. You have to have a number of infrastructural changes for that, and you have to have a lot of behavioral changes from the public. It's not something that you just impose on people, take away something that has been used as an energy source. But I think that our ultimate plan is to phase out the use of the fossil fuels.
Politicians have a tendency to say how proud they are of us and how inspired they are by us, but we're sick and tired of hearing that. We don't want a pat on the back. We don't want your gold star. We want you to actually take some action towards this crisis.
When you say encourage our citizens, what do you think the government's role is in reducing these emissions on a massive scale?
Last question.
I think that the government is a regulatory body that has to listen to the citizens who ultimately give feedback about what's necessary. So we're talking about a behavioral change. You can implement a number of policies and people themselves will find wiggle room around those policies and around those regulations. If you can somehow tap into behavioral change and have people buy into the understanding that this is for their own benefit, you're going to see long-lasting change, but also achievable goals.
Do you see the issue with placing the responsibility on the individual as opposed to massive structural change?
No, I think it's going to take all of us, all hands on deck.
When different business people or political leaders talk about what an individual needs to do to change, it's ridiculous. I call BS on that. And you're going to tell me that it's my fault that climate change is happening when 71% of emissions produced worldwide are produced by 100 companies? It's not our fault. It's not your fault.
They have the power to change it.
Yeah, and they just keep taking money from them and not doing anything to change the system that we're in.
It's the only world we've got. I won't sit idly by while the poison waters rise. Let's take our future back. I won't shut up and be quiet while the world around me.
Yeah. Are you also coming to the 27th of November?
Okay, then you're good.
Okay, so now you talk about that.
Yeah.
Everyone who's here, come to the 27th. That's like the big one. Everyone's gonna be there. We need to see.
I dream about the 27th.
I have nightmares about the 27th. This is like 0.1% of everything that we do. Like daily, like probably like 6 hours on the computer, like trying to organize. This is our entire lives.
My biggest hope is just to get thousands of people out there.
The general climate strike was fast approaching on Friday, September 27th.
Oh, the vampire Alberta stalks across the money market.
Nationally, we have 7 demands for climate justice. Our first demand is Indigenous rights.
The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People in full, including Article 32, Indigenous people's right to free, prior, and informed consent. Demand number 2, protection for the most affected communities. Recognize Canada's disproportionate role in the climate crisis. 3, of environmental racism, and subsequent responsibility of the protection of those most affected by climate change.
Transition must be decent, low-carbon work for everyone by investing in re-education programs, especially for those economically reliant on fossil fuels.
Demand number 4, bold emissions reductions. Legislate greenhouse gas emission reductions of 75% of 2005 levels by 2030 in order to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Number 5, separation of oil and state. Reject all new fossil fuel extraction or transportation projects. Eliminate fossil fuel subsidies and prime promotion. Demand number 6, environmental rights. Enshrined in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the fundamental right to a healthy environment. This would include, but is not limited to, the right to safe air, clean water, and healthy soil. Expose past and present violations of these rights and provide reparations to those affected communities.
So why are you here today?
We're here today to show our Winnipeg spirit, woo woo, show our pride, and to do the right thing to help you guys and show our support because you guys are showing your support.
Well, I'm here because I really care about the climate, obviously. It's the big thing right now. It's really important. Everybody relies on it. We all are striking for the same thing, so.
I'm here because I care about the environment, planet Earth, and for our future, and the survival of, all our relations.
We want more people coming out, demonstrating. This is my way of demonstrating.
Police report that there was 12,000 people here. So there's been some dramatic growth. And that first strike had about 15 people.
And that's just within this year kind of thing? So like from last year to this year?
Yeah, from December there was I think 24. February, like the first official strike, there was just over a dozen, and now we're at 12,000.
Wow, that's huge.
In initial planning, we were hoping to reach 1,000. That was the goal. It kind of morphed into 2,000 to 4,000, and then we were kind of inching up to the 5 or 6, but we never expected 12,000 people. And looking around, I'm seeing friends and family friends and people I know from school or other activities or anything that I never would have expected to come. So I think we're really seeing a big representation for Winnipeg's community here.
This is the biggest mobilization of people since at least the 80s.
And it's a weekday. Yeah, it was Friday, Saturdays. So this is historic.
Were you at the legislative building on the day of the general strike?
So I actually wasn't physically here, but a number of my colleagues were. And certainly that sparked so many discussions that have been so valuable, especially in the portfolio that I find myself in right now.
The people gonna rise like the water. We're gonna shut this system down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now.
I'm hoping that I'll be able to explain this whole process, this whole time in my life to my kids and my grandkids. It'll be something like, wow, cool, you were involved in oh, Grandma, yeah, you did that. Yeah, I think globally the biggest thing is for other youth to be able to look at us in the future and be like, wow, 6 million students walked out of class. That's insane. And I want them to feel the power that we feel and realize that their voices matter and they make a difference. I want the movement to be remembered when we say planet, of course. I want people to remember that people worked for this because it was the only thing that mattered. And you can't have anything if you know the planet's going on. And I think that's this isn't just a movement, it's a community of people. Now that we have friends worldwide and across the country, we have brought people together that would not have known each other otherwise. I think that's one of the really powerful things about this. Something we've been saying a lot is that this time textbooks, history textbooks. Yeah. So that's my individual goal. Yeah, on a more trivial level, I guess. Yeah, I want to be a textbook. I want to be a textbook. As the movement.